Good morning. My name is Marlene Goodall, and I will be giving you a data overview for West Hall High School, predominantly in the Science Department, grades 9 through 12. The purpose of my presentation will be to review the last 3 years demographic data for West Hall High School and compare to Hull County District. Review the last 3 years EOC scores data in biology and physical science in comparison to the district and state. I know that in the science department we teach multiple content areas. However, we only give an EOC in biology and physical science. Therefore, our emphasis for this presentation will be in biology and physical science. We're going to establish short terms for the biology and the physical science classroom by continuing to analyze data, and we're going to determine the strengths and the weaknesses within the science department current instructional practices. As we review this data, there are some questions that we need to acknowledge. Take in mind that we need to think about what will be some of the strengths students have in biology, what strengths students have in physical science, what are considering strengths in the science curriculum, what are considering weaknesses in the science curriculum, what needs to be accomplished for teachers to make a positive change in their own classroom, and how can teachers use formative and summative assessment data to continue to improve instructional practices in the science curriculum for our students to be successful. But first, let's look at some data. We're going to start looking at the district student enrollment data. The Hull County school system has 5 high schools. We have East Hull, Flowery Branch, Johnson High School, North Hull, and West Hull. Out of all the kids in our district, we serve about 7,262 students. The majority of our students attend Flowery Branch and Johnson High School. However, West High School serves about 16% of that entire population. The reason why Flowery Branch and Johnson has the most students is because that's where we have our largest communities. Westwell High School has a small community, and therefore we just have a smaller percentage than the rest of the district. So now let's look at the student enrollment data for West Hall High School. If you look back in 2015 and 2016, we only served about 1,185 students. The next year we increased and we start serving 1,208 students. However, we recently just opened a new high school, and some of those kids went to the new high school called Cherokee Bluff, and therefore our student enrollment data decreased to 1,201 students. The student enrollment by gender does not vary much. We have had a consistent enrollment data for females and a consistent data for males. However, we do have more males in our campus than we do females. We have a lot of ethnic groups within our high school. We serve white students, we serve multiracial students, we serve Hispanic students, Black students, and Asian Pacific Islander students. We are predominantly Hispanic. As you can see, there's a greater increase in the Hispanic population. Then we have our next big group will be the white group, and then our Black group. Our multiracial group is very small because we usually have had between 3 to 14 students as the years have gone by. If we start looking at this data by special subgroups, and what I mean by special subgroups are those students who are ELL students or migrant students or students that have a disability with an IEP. Those are our special subgroups. And then we also look at the economical disadvantaged students. If you notice, the majority of our students are economical disadvantaged. We live in a very poor environment, so our students mostly have an economical disadvantage. So a lot of our students are part of that group, and because we're mostly Hispanic, therefore that's the group that we are mostly fits into this economical disadvantage group. Some of the issues that we have seen at Westall High School, it has been our school attendance. Because we're predominantly Hispanic, a lot of our students have to go ahead and start working. and most of them work at the chicken plant. So therefore, they work long nights, and then they have to get up early to come to school. So some of the issues that we have seen is our attendance rate. So as you have seen here, it seems that throughout the past 3 years, our school attendance has increased, and we consider significant absences in our school for those students who have more than 15 days absent. And as of the general population, we're starting to see about 492 students who are continuously absent, and mostly it's because our students work late nights and then they just cannot get up to come to school. And I think that has tremendously have affected our school in many ways. If we look at this at school attendance by gender as of 2017 and 2018, 41%, which is about 492 students of our female population, have more than 15 absences, and 40%, which is our male, which is about 480 students, the male population have had more than 15 absences during the school year. So if you can see, it does not change who's more absent than the other. They're all about equally the same. If we look at the school attendance by race, we can see here that for 2017 and 2018, the number of populations during this year is 1,201 students. Most of our students who have more than 15 absences are our white population and our black population. And I really think it's because since we have such a large Hispanic population, we do see a lot of our Hispanics being absent, but because we have a very small black population, the moment that 2 or 3 or maybe 10 kids are absent, the number tends to be bigger because it's such a small group. So that small group can make a huge impact into our data and the things that we can see to better our science curriculum. If we look on this graph right here, in the 2015 and 2016 year, the absences by race, it did not vary much. And overall, it really hasn't very much. It's just by small numbers. Here, you see a 0 for multiracial, and that's because during this time, which it was in the 2016 and 17 year, we did not have any students enrolled that were considered multiracial, and that's why you have a 0 there. Same here for the Asian and Pacific Islander. In the 2015 and 2016 year, we did not have any students enrolled during that year, so we didn't have any data based on who was absent because we didn't have any of those students. But as you can see, as the years have gone by, the rate of absences from our students has stayed pretty consistent. Another thing that I am part of the SIP group, or the leadership group, which is the school improvement plan group for our school. And last year in the 2016 and 17 school year, we noticed that our Hispanic population was increasingly being absent in school. So we came up with a plan to make the students stay in school, make them want to be in school. And some of the things that we talked about during this meeting was creating relationships with our Hispanic community, trying to acknowledge them more in school where they can feel welcome and they want to be part of that school. So fast forward a year later, we noticed that we kind of did it because we went from 21% chronic absences, or more than 15 days absent, and that decreased to 16% days absent. So that was a great plus. However, now we put so much emphasis for our Hispanic community that, as you can see on the data, there was an increase of absences for our white community and there was an increase in the black community. So now, therefore, for this upcoming year, for the 2019-2020 year, our emphasis are going to be those groups. And hopefully, as the years go on, we can have all of our students want to be part of our school, wanting to stay in school, and hopefully our absences rate will decrease. If we look at our school attendance by special subgroups, there's not very much change. The only change that you kind of significantly see here is our migrant group. And the only reason why this is such a big jump from 43% to 57% is because during the 2017 and the 2018 year, we only had 14 students. So when we have 14 students, that's such a small group. So when some of these kids miss about 8 of our kids out of the 14 that were enrolled, and 8 of our kids were absent for more than 15 days, this data right here, in my opinion, will be skewed because such a small group, and when that such a small group, more than that half of that group is absent, is going to show a big impact as you see it here. However, for the rest of our groups, the rate of absence stay consistent. It did not change. We're still having the students being absent when we need them to be in school and get that instruction that they need for them to be successful. So part of the purpose of this presentation was to look at the end of course assessment for biology and physical science. But before we start talking about the data for physical science and biology, we need to understand what is the end of course test and what they're looking at. So the end of course test is a measure of students' academic progress and the preparedness for the next level, where it is the next grade level or if they're ready for college or their career. The support and informs the teacher the effectiveness of instructional practices. The EOC is a big weight on our students' final grade because it takes a 20% of the students' final grade. The EOC for biology and physical science is composed of multiple choice questions. The EOC assesses the students on the operational items and the field test items. When the teacher receives the end of course test scores, you get a chart and it has all these numbers. So let's look at the score interpretation. So the way the students are graded or assessed, it goes by levels. It goes by achievement level 1, which is a beginner learner. Then you go to achievement level 2, which is a developing learner. Then it's achievement level 3, which is proficient learner. And lastly is achievement level 4, which is a distinguished learner. In biology, when you get the scale scores and you look at your students' scores, if you have a level 1 student or a beginning learner, you're looking at that means that the student made between 140 to 474 points in this scale score. If it's a developing learner, it's 475 to 524. If it's a proficient learner, it's 525 to 608. And if you are a distinguished learner, you are looking from 609 to 820. If you look at the physical science one, it really does not vary much. In the beginning learner section is about 145 to 474. The developing learner is 475 to 524, which is about the same with biology. The proficient learner is 525 to 603, and the distinguished learner is 604 to 815. So when we're looking at the scores, our goal is to have all of our students to be proficient learners or distinguished learners. So what does that mean? So when if you're saying that you're a proficient learner, that means that you have actually mastered the standards. You're understanding the world biology, you're understanding what they're asking you, you're understanding the content. So you are ready to move on to the next level, which for our school, we teach physical science, our next level course. So the goal and the purpose of looking at this data is we want to help our developing learners to become proficient learners. We want to help our beginning learners to become developing learners for the next year, and eventually by the time they graduate high school, we're hoping for all of our students to become proficient or distinguished learners. At the state level, 77,889 students were able to take the test, and only 42% were able to be proficient level learners or distinguished learners. So if we go back and look at Westwell High School biology EOC data for 2015 all the way to the 2017-2018 school year, there has not been much increase. For the 2015 and the 2016 and 2017 year, there was no change. It was all the same. We did not increase. However, in the 2017 and 2018, we did increase some, which is a big plus. We were able to push our students that were distinguished to level 3 or level 4 distinguished learners. If we compare this data to the one to the district and the state, our school is still lower than the district and the state. We still have a lot of work to do to be above the district and the state. However, the school, the district, and the state increase in their scores in the 2017 and the 2018 school year. So now let's look at the physical science EOC data. Our students did not increase significantly. We stayed about the 20% percentile rates. Our students are still struggling to become proficient and distinguished learners in physical science EOC. We are extremely, if we compare that to the district and the state, we are extremely below the district and the state. The district and the state scores are between the 40 percentile range. We are still in the 20 percentile range. We're still extremely low. That means that we have a lot of students who are in the beginning and they are in the developing stage. We still have very small group of students who are proficient or distinguished learners in physical science. However, we can see that in the 2017 and 2018 year, the school, the district, and the state were able to increase their scores. So after looking at all this data, biology and the physical science strengths are that in the 2017-2018, there was a significant increase on the biology EOC scores. In 2 consecutive years, students' enrollment remained consistent. In 2017 and 2018, biology scores are closely comparable to the state and the district. Some of the weaknesses is our student attendance, significant lower physical science EOC scores compared to the district and the state, and there was not a significant increase in the physical science EOC within Westwell High School. So let's look at some discussion questions. How can the science department use formative and summative assessment to improve the EOC scores in biology and physical science? Given the previous EOC data, how can the science department modify instructional practices to improve the EOC scores for our students? How can we improve student attendance? So now let's take 5 minutes to think about those discussion questions. So what are our next steps? As a science department, what are our next steps? Well, first we need to answer our discussion questions. Next, during the Professional Development Community Meeting, our PLC meetings, we need to create an action plan for common pacing guides. We need to create common assessments. We need to increase literacy within our students and change our instructional practices. We need to determine how to use formative and summative data to improve instructional practices. Determine how to assess our students on a regular basis to determine that they're mastering the content. Determine how to use RTI, Retention Intervention Program, effectively to help students to continue to master the standards in biology and physical science. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please address those to me via email. Thank you.